Come on, 2, 3.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Friday, February 18th, 2022. And our top story today, what you need to consider before getting a divorce. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Geraldine Lawrence. She's a certified matrimonial attorney and also president-elect of the New Jersey Bar Association. Geraldine, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great, and I'm excited to talk about this. I think it's an important topic, but I guess to start off, I mean, divorce never easy, even if two sides agree, right? I mean, this doesn't have to be a negative topic to discuss.
It doesn't. I mean, I always say there's never a good time to divorce. That's what people always think. But ultimately, people want to be happy and they want to find peace and look forward to that next step. But it doesn't have to be the War of the Roses type of divorce. And most people do not want that kind of divorce. Most people want to settle their case. And most cases are settled. 97 to 98% of all divorce cases ultimately settle, and they're not in court.
Yeah, well, that is, you bring up War of the Roses. That's an incredibly funny movie. I think that's Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner from the 80s. I remember that. I remember the scene where they're sitting in the chandelier, or someone's
right.
sitting in the chandelier. I think it was Michael Douglas's character, and he winds up falling. All right, let me ask you about this. The pandemic occurred. We're all working remotely. A lot of us are, we may have a small house, a small apartment. Have you seen an increase in clients over this time frame looking for a divorce?
Absolutely. Now we're seeing an increase. In the beginning of the pandemic, if we can take ourselves back to March of 2020, it was terrifying, right? We didn't know what was going to happen, had no idea what was going to happen with our practice, with the profession. So things were quiet in the beginning, but what started happening were a lot of fights over parenting time. One parent taking CDC guidelines very seriously, another parent not. So we had a lot of custody and parenting time issues. Then it morphed into financial issues. People were experiencing changes in circumstance, either losing their job or losing income. So that impacted alimony and child support. And now really we're just very busy in divorces. People who have been stuck together during the pandemic have either seen the best of their spouse or the worst of their spouse. And they've said, this has shown me that this is not the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. And it has motivated them to move forward with the divorce.
Geraldine, you bring up a really interesting topic. And I have to say, beyond the first responders, the people in the hospitals, they took on the greatest burden. Teachers, people on the front line. But parents, they really, the stress level for parents, you mentioned financial, you mentioned dealing with the children. If you have young kids, getting them to sit in front of a Zoom, like we're doing, that's right. Really hard. I have to give it to parents. They really stepped up in a big way and still are stepping up.
Well, think about the working parent who's still trying to maintain their job while they are teaching their children virtually. And if the other parent is not helping in that regard, that the parent shouldering all of that burden was getting extremely angry and bitter. And it was extremely challenging. I mean, some people, they say statistically, I think women have left the workforce in droves because it was just impossible for them to manage school and manage work. And if their partner was not stepping up and helping, likely they're ending up in a divorce lawyer's office.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second. That's a step backwards because we want women to have an opportunity to be in the workforce. We've kind of progressed to the point where we've got daycare, child services. That sounds very public sector, but people to take care of children, that really is kind of regression. Hopefully things will change over time because, divorce is an answer. We'll get to that in a little bit. But you really want women to be able to step forward and to take the jobs that they want to take and have a career, have a successful and fruitful life.
And I think they will. I just think that, if they're figuring if they're going to do it alone and be unhappy, they might as well do it alone and be happy and find their happiness. And this could be both ways. I mean, that certainly now more than ever, we're seeing men take a more active role, an equal role in parenting, so they can be feeling the same way. But I think it's a temporary blip on the radar. I think people will get back to the workforce, but they're going to try to find a job that embraces how they want to work. If it's work from home, but they're going to find their balance and get back to work.
Yeah, it really, this pandemic has really, if you we've all been impacted health-wise, economically, but I think it really kind of crystallized what people want. And Geraldine, you kind of ticked off some of the top reasons: finances, child caring. What are some of the other reasons why people are, they're just calling it quits, or they're saying, I want to divorce and go our separate ways?
Yeah, predominantly, it's the main theme is always a lack of communication, whether it's a lack of communication about how to co-parent, about how to spend money, what they're prioritizing their money on. The tale as old as time is infidelity. Usually, spouses are not leaving unless, there is that lack of communication, but, or, money issues. But if there's someone else, out there waiting, they get highly motivated to leave as well.
And last question before we go to commercial break, and I was doing a little work to prepare for this, looking at statistics. 50% of marriages here in the U.S., which is third in the world, according to a survey I read, and it could be higher now, are ending in divorce. And the average divorce age, 30?
Yeah.
And you mentioned communication. Taking a step back, having a good relationship, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your coworker, whether it's with your children, it's all about communicating. And as my wife tells me, to make sure I have my listening ears on.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And the statistics are even higher for second and subsequent marriages. So half of first marriages, unfortunately, are not successful. Second, third, and subsequent marriages, it's even higher. I think the statistics are 75%, because
Wow.
the challenges of blending a family, if you're bringing children into a new marriage or a new relationship, if you have financial obligations to your prior family, that already has some delicate issues that you have to work through. So you have to be really good at communicating what that looks like.
Yeah, they're really important. Well, Geraldine, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the divorce process and how do you find the right attorney to partner with. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking this morning to Geraldine Lawrence, a certified matrimonial attorney and president-elect of the New Jersey Bar Association. Geraldine, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. And we didn't get a divorce. We didn't have a media divorce during the break, so that's good.
That is good.
I feel like I'm making progress. Let's talk about the process. And first, different states have different rules, but what's generally you live in the great state of New Jersey, the Garden State. But what's generally the process that you need to think about if you want to get a divorce?
Well, I would certainly suggest that if you're even thinking about it, the first thing that you do is you have an initial consultation with a lawyer. That is probably the most important hour that you will spend with your lawyer throughout the duration of your case. This way you get to interview the lawyer, they're interviewing you. You can talk about what your goals are, what your strategies are. Every consultation I have with a client, I ask them, where do they want to be in a year? What does life look like for you in a year? So that we can work towards that. So every decision that we're making throughout the case is getting them to that goal. So that's really what you want to think about and get educated. Being educated on this is power. Having knowledge is power. So many people come to me and say, oh, I think the law is X and it's really not X. And so once you know what you're facing, what you're entitled to, what your obligations are, I think you can make an informed decision and just feel comfortable with whatever that decision is that you make. So that initial consultation is very important. Also talking to your spouse, if you're able to do that. If there's domestic violence in the marriage, that's very difficult to do that. I don't recommend that you do that. But if you can, the more you can resolve with your spouse or your partner, the more you can resolve, the better. How lawyers work is we bill based on time spent on the file. So the more time we're spending on your file, the more expensive your divorce is. So the more you can agree on with your partner, the better. And then we can work off those terms that are agreed upon and then just try to resolve the issues that are not agreed upon.
What about, just kind of thinking, listening to you, does it make sense if you have an agreement up front with the marriage to saying that you're going to split assets 50%, I forget what they call it, a prenup, right? A prenuptial agreement. And I wonder if more couples are doing that. But secondly, is that helpful in terms of the divorce and the dispensation of assets and figuring out childcare and things like that?
It is. A lot more people are entering into prenuptial agreements. And so long as they're done appropriately, in New Jersey, we have a statute that outlines what you have to do. It has to be based on full and fair disclosure. Both sides should have a lawyer, but more people are entering into a prenup. And courts are likely to enforce a valid prenup. So yeah, that is absolutely happening. But there's two people that control how long a divorce takes and how much it costs. And that's the parties going through a divorce. So the more they can agree upon, if they can agree that the assets that they've acquired during the marriage are divided equally, that's just one less issue that the lawyers have to focus on. And if alimony is usually the hardest part of our job, so if we need to focus on that and they're having a hard time resolving that, then that's what the lawyers will help them accomplish.
You mentioned finances. We talk a lot about finances on this show, but there's also the children that of all ages. I mean, if they're not yet 18, they're still, I guess, considered minors. Right. How do you factor in child custody? I mean, outstanding outside of say one parent is just, you mentioned domestic violence. There's those types of things, but how does that factor into the decision making?
Well, for most people going through a divorce with children, that is their primary concern. Everything else kind of takes a back seat until we can resolve custody and parenting time. In New Jersey, we have what's called joint legal custody, where most parents are presumed to share joint legal custody. They'll have equal say in major decisions affecting the kids' health, education, safety, welfare. When do they get braces? Where are they going to college? Day-to-day decisions, what are they eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, vests with the parent that has them for their parenting time. So we know joint legal custody is pretty much a given. It's really the parenting time schedule. People come to me and think they're fighting about custody when really they're not fighting about custody. They're fighting about how they want to spend time. And we talk about a schedule. What works for them? What was the parenting time schedule during the marriage? What was their access to the children? What did the caretaking roles look like? Sometimes parents want to continue with that same schedule moving forward, or sometimes they want to change it. There's times that a divorce, makes a parent rethink how they were during the marriage and they want more time with their kids. And so we work on a schedule. In New Jersey, the standard is the best interest of the child. So if you are an active parent, an involved parent, and available for your children and available to parent, you're going to get a significant amount of parenting time.
Yeah. What about, I guess last question here, and this is more of a qualitative or question. I mean, post-divorce, how do you, a divorce can be acrimonious. It doesn't have to be, but you got to sometimes, probably have to tell clients, hey, check your ego at the door. Think about the long term. But what about a return to normal life and what happens after the divorce? I mean, you're by yourself maybe for the first time in years. You're building up friendships. You may lose some friendships during the divorce. What does that post-divorce life look like, and what makes it easy to get there?
What I try to tell my clients is view this as an opportunity. During your marriage and as a parent, you're always compromising. And it's very rare that you put yourself first. And this is now an opportunity for you to put yourself first. What do you want? Where do you want to be? What's going to give you peace? What are you grateful for? Let's focus on what you're grateful for. That's the most important thing. You don't want to leave this process angry and bitter. And even if you need to get into therapy and rely on the therapeutic process, wholeheartedly support that, because that's the goal. You want to have a happy, successful post-divorce life. You want to transition that marriage into a really good co-parenting relationship. You want to co-parent and raise terrific, well-adjusted kids, but you also want to be happy. So however you define that and however you get there, that's what we need to do for you. But you really don't want to be angry and bitter, where it just shuts you off from finding that peace and happiness post-divorce.
It sounds like, you and your peers who do this for a living, you almost have to be part therapist. Is that relationship, is that something you're trained in, that the ability to relate and work people through? Is that something that they train in law school, or do you have to seek other types of training, or is it something you gain with experience?
I think it's a little bit of everything. It's not something that law school trains you for. Some lawyers have that training, whether through college or their degree can be in social work, or it can just be through real life experience. But you certainly do, have to address the emotional needs of your clients. I'm certainly not a trained therapist, but I can recognize if I need to add to my team, add to the village to try to shepherd my client through to a happy end here, is to bring on some therapeutic resources, because that's my goal. Our goal is to really make sure that you end this marriage and you begin this next journey as grounded as you can and to be set up for success.
Yeah, like so many things in life, Geraldine, it's not just transactional. It's not 0 or 1. It's not just all about dollars. It's about humanity and and relating and understanding yourself. I think at a lot of times, and you find out who you may really be through this process. Geraldine, we're going to have to leave it there. Really great talking with you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks again for having me, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Well, that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives? Check out our latest content? Well, visit our website. That's www.broadcastretirementnetwork.com. And our streaming partners like Amazon, Roku, Samsung, Flipboard, over 100 more. Check them all out. We're back again tomorrow for BRN Weekly. We'll take a look at some of our best segments for the week. And there are a lot. It's hard to choose, let me tell you. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.